as a society don't take the proper protocols to sustain our mental well being, then we'll simply have another crisis on our hands. Joining me today to talk about this important conversation is my dearest friend, Dr. Licia Ruggles.
And so I am very happy to be here to talk more about the impact of COVID-19 on our mental well-being.
Licia, how do you know when you're experiencing anxiety?
So anxiety, emotionally, you feel nervous. For some people, they have physical symptoms, so shortness of breath, heart palpitations, muscle tensions. You may find that you're having difficulty sleeping. A lot of people who are anxious, they may have anxious thoughts. Something bad is going to happen. I'm going to get COVID-19 if I leave the house. And that's extreme and can contribute to more stress and anxiety. A lot of what we're feeling now in terms of the anxiety related to COVID-19, that's normal as well because it's an abnormal situation.
In mindfulness, the human connection is a very, very important aspect.
There's a difference between physical distancing versus social distancing. That yes, physically we're apart, but it doesn't mean that we have to be socially distant.
What is PTSD?
So PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. We know watching the repetitive news media can be vicariously traumatizing. Talk about your thoughts and feelings about what you're going through, that can be therapeutic and that can be protective against developing PTSD. Love this strategy from Dr. Robert Leahy. He wrote a book called The Worry Cure, and he talks about, are your worries productive or unproductive? So productive worries are things that you can take action on now. So worries about COVID-19, we know that there are things that we can do to protect ourselves. Wearing a mask, washing our hands, using hand sanitizer, etc., physically distancing. So these are things that are within our control. So the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, I'll share a link in the notes, recommends that women do not drink more than 1 drink per day and no more than 7 drinks per week. And for men, no more than 2 drinks per day and no more than 14 drinks per week. So if you're keeping your drinking at or below those levels, then theoretically you shouldn't develop a problem. But if you're drinking well above that and you're drinking heavily and it's causing problems, again, you're not waking up on time for your job, you're neglecting your children, you're neglecting your work, then you may have to consider, reflect on, okay, what is this excessive drinking about? What's underlying the drinking?
We don't have to go through this trauma alone. As social creatures, we need to develop connections with one another, or one ourselves if we go inward, or a higher power.
Positive psychology, this idea of gratitude, that on a daily basis, if you're able to highlight, what are 5 things that I'm grateful for at the end of the day, that being mindful of that, using gratitude, that can be helpful to help reduce that feeling, the feeling of stress and anxiety that, look, I'm lucky. I have to count my blessings. There's so many things I can be grateful for. First of which is, we're healthy and we're alive and we have a roof over our shoulders.
How do we keep kids from absorbing anxiety and parents at the same time be productive?
The American Psychological Association actually came up with a tip sheet for parents, which I will share. 6 tips for how to manage your children's anxiety during COVID-19. There are different things that people can do to cultivate a sense of mindfulness. One of the simplest ways is just to focus on your breath, to do some deep breathing. When you're feeling particularly stressed out, to just stop, take a few deep breaths and just check in with yourself. How am I feeling in this moment? I love this strategy from Dr. Robert Leahy. He wrote a book called The Worry Cure, and he talks about, are your worries productive or unproductive? So productive worries are things that you can take action on now. So worries about COVID-19, we know that there are things that we can do to protect ourselves. Wearing a mask, washing our hands, using hand sanitizer, etc., physically distancing. So these are things that are within our control.
How are you as a healthcare professional, a person who's also in the front lines, dealing with this crisis?
All of the strategies that I mentioned earlier about positive coping, I try to do that myself. Self-care, I try to get enough sleep, I try to eat well, I try to exercise.
Thank you for coming on the show today. I'm so glad to hear that you're taking the proper steps to self-care.